So hello everyone. I'm going to talk about web components and how to make it easy and featuring lit elements. So first of all, what's web components? What are web components? They are a set of web APIs, and most specifically for web APIs that are custom elements. It means you can create your own tags, shadow DOM to encapsulate markup and styles, ES modules to import and export, and HTML template to reuse the HTML markup. So do we need to add a framework on top of web components? No, we don't. And actually, we don't need to add a framework on top of JS like React and Angular. We don't need. We do that because we feel better. With JavaScript is a high-level language, and we want to work in high-level contexts. But when you are editing the DOM by yourself and changing attributes by yourself, you don't feel like you are working in a high-level environment. You feel like for front-end HTML and editing the DOM yourself is like the bit, working with bits in the backend. So why we want to have a library or something on top of web components? We want to do that because we don't want to update the DOM by ourselves. We want to just take care of state, and we want the state to be in sync with the DOM. And that's what lit element will give to us. So here's an example without any framework, just web component, pure web component. And here we have the template, and we have to add this template to the element we are creating, the custom element. And then, when this is in the case is a drop-down. When we toggle the drop-down, we have to modify the style to display or to not display, for example. And we have to choose which one is going to be selected. And we are doing that interaction with the DOM all over the places. And we don't want that. We want to have a render method or something like that to avoid to separate your logic from your view. And here is the same component with lit element. So this component, the size, the number of lines is the same, but it's very clear what we are doing. Here we are declaring the CSS. We don't have a template. Actually, what we have is a render method that we have our properties or attributes, and then we can render that. And every time an attribute changes, we are going to, the render method is going to be called and will update your view. You don't have to care about that. It's going to happen because of lit element. So what's lit element? Lit element is the new toy from Polymer. I believe it is going to replace in a few years the Polymer 3, or maybe this year yet, because Polymer changed the core of its concepts, and it's based on lit HTML. That is the base of lit elements. So with lit element, you can receive props and have your state in sync with the HTML done. And you have some life cycles like has changed, should update, updated, and rendered, and more. So it's no magic here. It's just a wrap around the native web components. Okay, and I said it was the core of it is the lit HTML. And the main difference about HTML is that you don't have to deal with handlebars like that. You can use template literal strings. It's an ES6 feature, like this one. And every time this function, say hello, is called, for example, it's going to update the DOM in your document, but it's going to update only that part. And actually, not that entire string, only the part of that string that's relative to that variable. So it's very precise, and it makes it's going to be very fast because of that. And one thing that I came from React, and one thing that I missed more when I started working with web components was like linting, importing, and saying what properties we have in a component in the case of React, and an element in this case. And the problem is when you are importing from a web component, you don't have export method. What you have is a definition of a web component in your HTML DOM. So you are declaring a new web component, a custom element, and you can't import. What you can do is import the file so it can be injected in your DOM. But for example, if you just write my button in this case, it's not going to, the linter is not going to accuse that it's wrong if you don't import. But with, I'm using VS Code, and we can have a plugin called lit HTML, and it made the difference for me for using or not using web components. So in this case, a lit element. So it will tell me if I forget to import my custom web component, my custom element, and it will give me access to that file if I click. And if I change some property, it will accuse that this value is not accepted anymore because it's unknown. And also, I can see every property that I have in that component. So it has autocompletion and linty and any more stuff you can see by yourself. And that's it. My experience using that was really similar to my experience using React. And I also created an app using lit element with Redux. And it was just as easy as using with React. I just have to connect my component and use it. And well, that's it. Thank you very much. That's my email if you want to talk to me, have some doubt. Thank you.